Welcome to the Zach on Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Zach Hughes. Today's episode is entitled, What Happens When You Go for a Big Leadership Role and You Don't Get It? I was just talking to a friend recently who didn't get a leadership role he applied for. In this particular case, the fact that he went for it was very public among his peers. It was a long shot. There was an incumbent with a clear advantage. My friend was the underdog. He put all he had into it, but it didn't work out. Not this time, anyway. This story stuck with me, not because it's a unique story. I'm sure many listening to this have heard similar stories recently. This stuck with me because there are some serious leadership attributes on display here. I'm going to use this podcast episode to explain what I mean. We've got a few lessons to learn. Risks. Leaders take risks. Playing it safe isn't leadership. Getting good at taking risks takes practice. In the case of reaching for a higher position, you aren't betting with company resources. The thing on your line is your very identity. Am I good enough? Long before anyone else can believe in you, you must believe in yourself. This isn't just throwing your hat in the ring and hoping for the best. That rarely works. You must know in your heart that you can do the job. You have to believe that they'd be lucky to have you in that role. Is it a stretch? Sure, but you've been stretched before. You're willing to bet on yourself. Does this sound cocky or arrogant? I don't think so. I think it sounds compelling. Remember, if you don't believe in yourself, don't be surprised when no one else does either. Belief is required to be a contender. My friend believed. What will people think? Sometimes we can go for big roles, and no one will know if we fail besides the hiring panel. That's pretty safe. But what if it's public? In my friend's case, it was public due to the nature of the circumstances. Then the stakes are even higher. Think to yourself, if I fail, everyone know that I tried and failed. Does that give you pause? Does that make you chicken out? It better not. Leadership is a public act. So much of what we do is on display. What will people think? Who cares? People will think what they think. But you can bet on this. Some, not all, will be inspired by the fact that you went for it. It'll encourage them to go for it, whatever it is, in their own life. Getting good at losing. Part of getting good at leadership is getting good at losing. I'm a very competitive person. I really like winning, but I've gotten good at losing. If I'm not regularly losing, then I'm only trying to accomplish easy stuff. I'm not growing. If you can't immediately think of several times you recently lost, then you aren't aiming high enough. If you need to get better at losing, I wrote an entire article about it. You can find a link to it in the show notes. The calling. I've written this many times on my blog and talked about it a lot on this podcast, that I believe leadership is a calling. It's something that we do because we can and because the world needs us to. I'm a man of faith, so I often believe that God puts opportunities in front of me and compels me to pursue them. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. I'm obedient to the call, and I put the results in God's hands. Look in the mirror. You just went for a big opportunity. It didn't work out. What does that make you? It makes you a courageous leader who answered the call, took a risk, believed in yourself, ignored the naysayers, got beaten, and lived to fight another day. This makes you stronger. Keep going. That's all for this week's episode of the Zach on Leadership Podcast. Thanks for listening.